Yeah, top of the SportsMax Zone for this Monday. Track and field is where we start. And Shericka Jackson was the star of Jamaica's Senior and Junior National Championships, concluding on Sunday in Kingston. Jackson retained her sprint double national title, adding the 200 metres in 21.71 to her incredible world-leading 10.65 run in the women's 100 on Friday. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce also secured her spot in the women's 200 metres, finishing behind Jackson in 22.26. The Mommy Rocket has also qualified for the women's 100, of course, as the defending champion. On the men's side, Rashid Broadbell ran a world-leading 12.94 to beat reigning Olympic champion Hansel Parchment, who clocked 13.12, and Orlando Bennett with 13.19. Broadbell's time is also a personal best. Here to discuss these and other results from the weekend's national championships in Jamaica, and maybe a little bit about what happened in Bahamas and Barbados as well, our in-house track and field analyst and lead writer with SportsMax.tv, Leighton Levy. Leighton, well, Shericka showed that she is in tip-top form and gunning for some 100-meter success to add to the tremendous 200-meter log that she's already put on the map globally, and she looks impressive.
Very impressive, but what is frightening in a good way is that when you look at what she did last year, her season this year is progressing in a similar manner. And she ran 10.77 at last year's championships. She got to 10.71 at Worlds. 10.65 here. If she follows on a similar trajectory, we're looking at possibly 10.5, which is in itself really, really encouraging for her coaching staff and her athlete herself, given how well. I mean, I remember when I spoke with her when she ran 10.78 at the start of June. She said that last year she ran 10.78 at the end of June, and clearly she's ahead of where she was last year. Yeah. We speak to the progression that she's experienced so far this season. So very encouraging performances on both fronts. 21.71, I think primarily because she hasn't run as many 200 so far this season, but 21.71 into a minus 0.5 wind, and with Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce pressing her in the first 100, is a very good solid performance, notwithstanding Gabby Thomas's 21.60 just a couple of hours later or so. But the thing is that everything seems to be moving in the right direction for Shericka Jackson right now. Yeah,
you say Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce pressing her in the first 100 of the 200. That's a bit of an understatement. Fraser-Pryce was like a bullet over the first 100 there. But part of the performances that we're seeing from Shericka Jackson at the moment would be down, Leighton, without question, to the fact that she has sorted out her starting problems. We now see Shericka Jackson leading 100-meter races after 20 meters, which we hadn't seen prior to now.
Absolutely. One of the things that impressed me most about Shericka's improvement in the 100, when you look at Brianna Williams, other than Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, in my mind, Brianna Williams is probably the best starter right now globally. And when Brianna came out of the blocks on Friday night, she was already 2 steps behind Shericka Jackson. This is a woman who has struggled with her start because she started her international or professional career as a 400-meter runner, where that requirement wasn't as critical as it is in the 100. Now we're seeing where she's getting that start, which means that her time are gradually going to go down in the 100, and it's scary to see what will happen when she puts all the pieces of her race finally together, hopefully in time for the World Championships in 6 weeks' time.
Donald?
Yeah, no, I was pretty impressed with what she brought to the table. But let's move on to Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, because of course she wanted some work in her legs because she hasn't run a lot of races
she hasn't
this
run
season.
Since last year.
Exactly. But we mentioned it before in terms of what happened in the first half of the 200 meters. How impressed were you by that start from Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce? And is that indicative of how her season is going well at this point in time, even though she hasn't had the races?
All right. So my initial reaction to seeing her storm through the field in the first 100 pulled words from me that I can't mention on here. Because it looked like she was fired out of a gun. And that's how quick she is. And given the fact that she hasn't raced since September last year, which is almost 11 months ago now, you're looking at somebody who's had significant levels of rust because she's only been training, and then she's been delayed by the knee injury that she suffered in Kenya. So, she's not only not been competing, but she's had a period of rehabilitation as well. So to see her come out and run that fast, both in the heats and in the final, tells you that she's in great shape. She's still not decided whether or not she's going to run the 200. I think she probably won't. But the reality is that was a good blowout for her, and that she has a couple more races before she gets to Budapest. But what I saw in that first 100, if anybody thought that she was going to not be at her best going into Budapest, have better think again, because she looks even faster than last year, which in itself is scary given the fact that she ran 10, 6, 7 times last year.
The fact is, Leighton, that based on the stagger, it is hard to accurately assess where she was. But after 70 meters, it appeared to me as if she was 2 or 3 meters in front of Shericka Jackson.
She was virtually in our time. Shericka was running on the lane 6.
That's what I said, but based on the stagger.
Based on the stagger.
Yeah.
But the speed at which they came up the curve, Shericka was just barely ahead. Given Shericka's 10.6 speed now, it tells you how fast Shelly was running on that curve. And it was phenomenal. I spoke to her after the race, and she said after the first 100 or so, she had luck. So I know what she was experiencing, but the thing about it is that she was incredibly fast over that first 100, and that's indicative of an athlete that's in shape and trending towards even running even faster, because I suspect that she wouldn't have started speed work yet, given where she's at in the season and given the fact that she's just opening her season after almost 11 months.
Now that you made that comment, I think it's only necessary that I bring in MVP that has been making the headlines, and Coach Paul Francis, the work that he has been doing and contributing to all the successes of Shericka Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, look, what we've seen from the work of not just Paul Francis alone, but the team around Shericka has transformed her from an elite 400-meter runner that has won bronze medals at the Olympics and World Championships into the forefront of the short sprints. 21:45 makes her the second fastest woman of all time. 10:65 makes her the 5th fastest woman of all time. It's incredible work in transforming an athlete who, when she started at the professional level, saw herself as a sprinter, a 100, 200-meter sprinter, which she did at very technical and represented Jamaica at the Carifla Games for so many years. And then she was convinced to go over to the 400 meters. Now she's back in an element in which she believes that's where she belongs. And I think what we've seen over the past 3 years especially is just some phenomenal progress that she's made. Look, she used to be in the top 5 of the greatest combination sprinters in history. 100, 200, 400. And at the end of last season, only Marion Jones and Flojo were ahead of her. She's now the #1 combination sprinter in the world, because 49:47, 21:45, and now 10:65 puts her right at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
That's how great the work has been in terms of getting her to the top, the pinnacle of world sprinting.
Yes, and what about Brianna Williams, Leighton? When you looked at that performance, what did you make of it? Do you see her making any progress?
Yes, look, this is a new season for her, new training group. She's had a lot of injury issues this season, a bothersome hamstring that flared up once again just the week before the championships. So the fact that she was able to compete there was in itself a miracle. And she came through around 11:01, which is the season's best for her. And you can see where she's trending down towards sub-11 times, given that just a couple of weeks ago she ran back-to-back 11:04s, came to the championships, and in some of the tougher heats, started to show that she's beginning to understand how to compete in traffic, which was always her problem. And now she's beginning to master that as well. And it augurs well for her going into the World Championships, where she's going to be a critical member of that 4x1 relay team, because it is most likely that she'll be starting that relay. And I suspect that in the next 6 weeks, she'll be ready to go a lot faster than 11:01 that she ran at the championships.
Rashid Broadwell, in the 110-meter high hurdle, she's gone up to a next level now.
You just mentioned it and the goosebumps come up again. Listen, that for me, there are many amazing performances at the championship, but that for me was the one that almost made me cry. Because...
And there were several.
Yeah, there were several. Listen, the women's 400-meter hurdle was ridiculous. And of course, the men's 100 and the women's 100, there are so many fantastic events. But look, Winthrop Graham is one of my favorite Jamaican athletes, period, right? 47.63 in Barcelona in 92, 47.60 the year later, I think it was in Helsinki in 93, the World Championships. And since that time, no other Jamaican has gone under 48 seconds. Danny McFarlane came the closest, 48 seconds flat. And I remember on the 20th anniversary of that national record, and of course Steve Young's 46.7 at the time, I had him on a radio show that I used to host. And Rinstrop expressed his disappointment at the time that no other Jamaican has followed in his footsteps in getting to that level of performance below 47 seconds in a year or in a time, an era, when 46 is now becoming the norm, especially among the top runners. So to see this young kid running 45, well, he ran 45.25.
Rashard Clark you're talking about.
Yeah, man. 45.25, the race was Grand Prix. I had told a number of people that he was going to run 47 seconds. I wasn't sure when, but it was clear that he had the speed to be able to do that, because in the new dynamic of the 400-meter hurdles, you need to be able to run 45 low or 44 high to run the times that the 400-meter hurdle commands now for you to have a chance at winning a medal. So to see him come through around 47.85, which is a national junior record, by the way, because he's 19 years old, and tie the world junior record, and then now to become only the second man in history, Jamaica's history, to run under 48 seconds was, listen, I was so emotional I could barely, I mean, there are people talking to me. I wasn't even aware I was being filmed. That actually ended up on social media. The reality is that it was an extraordinary performance, and one that I think indicates just how good this youngster is. And I think he's going to run faster in the years to come. I think by the time they get to Budapest, he could be down to 47.4s, because that's how good he is.
I see that you're very eager to speak about Rashard Clark, but I actually asked you about Broadbell.
Oh,
with what
sorry.
he did in the 110-meter hurdles.
I swore you said, didn't you say
Broadbell? I was asking you about Broadbell. Yes,
okay.
no problem.
Broadbell, yeah.
But we got that out of the way.
Okay,
right?
let's get that out of the
Yeah.
way. But Rashid Broadbell, listen, that kid continues to impress me so much. Huh? He's, just to give you an idea, if you're not familiar with who he is, the world champion, the two-time world champion, Grant Holloway, in the head-to-head with Rashid Broadbell, has lost 3 races to this youngster, who is the Commonwealth Games champion. And last year, he ran 12.99 at the Commonwealth Games. 12.94, he says he was aiming for 12.90. But, you know, it wasn't a perfect race. His first 3 or 4 hurdles is not the best, but his last 3 are always fantastic. 12.94 suggests to me, and I'm not saying this lightly, that by the time he gets to Budapest, if he remains healthy and nothing goes wrong, we could see the national record go, and I think he'll probably run 12.87 or in the region of 12.85, which puts him in the hunt for the gold medal. Because one of the things that I know for a fact, and I think anybody who watches the sport know, if he's on your shoulder with 3 hurdles to go, you're going to be beaten. And that's his strength. And he's gotten better at it. And Hans Department is in good shape. 13.12 is not a bad time. In fact, his season is best. And he was very proud at the time when I spoke to him after the race as well. But Rashid Broadbell right now is looking to be fantastic in terms of what he's able to deliver. And I think he's going to be a star in the years to come, and someone who is likely to be a world champion this year.
But he certainly has a lot of heart. That's very, very obvious. Johan Blake had a treacherous weekend, DQ'd in the 100 with a false start, and then not making the top 3 in the 400. He was in the 200. He was 4th there, which means that he doesn't have a spot in the Jamaica team.
Yeah, that was bothersome to me, because I don't understand the circumstances under which he false started, but
when you say the false start, you mean they give him another race?
Yeah, well, he was,
because he false started.
Yeah, I was going to clarify by saying, yes, I'm watching it, and he looked like he clearly false started. He was given an opportunity to run 10.16 for a chance to get in. Then he ran 10.31. The whole thing is just unfortunate. I'm actually going to try and get into the reasons why. I need to talk to the officials as to why he was given the opportunity. Yeah. And of course, but the reality is that it was just an unfortunate. The thing that's unfortunate about it, especially, he just announced that he has signed a new contract with Puma. And then here he is, he doesn't make the 100, and he doesn't make the 200-meter team. A lot of people think that his career is finished. I have never been one to believe that, primarily because he's demonstrated last year 985. And if his career was that bad off, would Puma have come on board and signed him? I don't think so. And I think the weekend was one he will want to forget, but I think it will give him motivation to get, on the Olympic team next year, and to continue to run faster in the course of the season.
Yeah, we can't leave the Jamaica trials without Megan Tapper. what a bullet start she had. She needed a good start to win that event because it was a high-quality field, like Kira Nugent and Danielle Williams and company. She won that race out of the blocks.
Yep. Listen, I've been talking to Meg and I have been in touch since 2011 when she ran at the Youth Olympics in Paris. And over the last 3 years especially, I've been telling her that I see in her the ability to run 12.4s because she's coming down from 12.52, 12.51. And I'm not quite sure if you believe it. And if you're watching Meg, I'm saying it publicly, I'm not sure if you believe it, but I think on the weekend she started to believe that she's capable. 12.44 in the semifinals, looking really comfortable. Her start was ridiculous. And in the final, she got away from everybody and they could not pull her back. And I thought that was a very, very confidence-boosting win, notwithstanding the time of 12.64. The thing is that I think from now on, she'll go into competition knowing that she's capable of running a lot faster. And that in itself gives her the confidence. And you know, any sport is about what happens here. Because everybody basically prepares the same way, but it's what you believe you can do. Yes. And I think that 12.44 has given her the confidence to know that she's capable of running 12.4 or faster. Mm-hmm. And I think it puts her in the hunt for possible medals in Budapest.
Yeah, real exciting action at the Jamaica National Track and Field Championship over the weekend. Some of the national championships not as high-powered because some of their athletes had gone to the CAC. We saw Anthony Strawn winning the sprint double in the Bahamas. In Barbados, Shadi Williams had very little competition in the 400 and clocked 51.25, winning by probably about a mile.
Yeah.
But that was how the weekend ended in track and field. We go to break, back with more on The Zone after this.